So what's about this Midgard expedition? Well, it's a boat, but it's more than a boat. Our boat is a analog in some ways to how it is that we are and interact with other people and our environment. So imagine if you made every decision, your work decisions, your play decisions, your decisions about how you interact with other people, with the environment, about what you consume, about what you do and don't tolerate, about what you do and don't do, about your ethical decisions, all your decisions. What if you made those as if you were on a small open boat in a big ocean with a small crew? That's what the expedition is about, because that's what's happening with us on the planet. You know, we are a very small planet with a large number of people on board, and everything that each one of us does impacts everyone else, and there is no compartmentalizing, right? We go through our lives and we have the job and we have, you know, what we do for play, and sometimes we have a hobby, and here's our family and there's our buddies, and we go to the pub and da-da-da. But we do that within a closed system, and because we only see a small part of it, sometimes we don't really realize that. So the first thing that this expedition is about for me is about recognizing that we are on a small boat together in a very uncertain environment, and we are tired and we are stressed and we have plenty of problems, but we cannot look away. It's like when you're seasick on a boat. We call it the little death, and you just kind of go below to die because you just cannot interface with the environment anymore. You are overstressed, you're sick, you're incapable of doing things, and you disconnect from the environment, and you disconnect from the measures that are needed and required to survive, right? And this is a dangerous state. And there are some people who persist through those states, and there are some people who don't. And if you spend a lot of time on a small boat in bad weather, you find ways of persisting, even in those states, of driving through certain learned and very structured ways of doing things to at least be capable of doing minor tasks. And you learn over time what those tasks are, what you can and cannot do in that diminished state. So part of it for me is then, how do you act? What can you do, and how do you evaluate what contribution you can bring when you are in a diminished state? And another part of it is about beauty and flow and connectedness and situational awareness, all the things that we as bushcrafters talk about, that we as practitioners of Ninpo talk about, that we as aware divers talk about, that we as integrated human beings try to effect. And this whole boat, this Midgard Heron, our little haven on this open ocean, is a condensation of that. So it's a sort of a very intensified model, not even a model, it's a very intensified environment that. So yeah, it's about this sense of integral living. It's about the beauty. It's about the connectedness. But it's also about skill. You know, we've built this thing based on a lineage, right? A lineage of experimental skill development. So these Vikings, they didn't just make these ships the way they are now. They sent out 30 ships, and then 4 of them came back. And they figured out what was special about those 4, and then they started building the next 30 ships based on what was learned, and then they sent those guys out, and maybe now 8 of them came back, or 12. So it's about, how do we be skillful in a turbulent environment where we need to learn things very quickly. So the boat is being built in South Africa. It's being built in the Heyerdahl boatyard, and it's a unique combination. It's all this knowledge, and we went up to we obviously looked at the archaeological finds, and we had a very great meeting with the best of the Viking skippers in Tonsberg some weeks ago, where we validated the ideas, and Andre, who's our boat builder, our Floki, was able to get confirmation, and we're building that boat with in the local shipyard with our local carpenters down there in South Africa. And it's a unique vessel, right? It's built to flex on the ocean. It's built to not to bring the maximum use of all this turbulent energy of the wind and the waves. And the boat itself flexes, and it's built to flex. And sometimes we call them goat boats, or they're called goat boats because they move like a goat in between the waves. Pretty small, so that we can go in between the waves. And no, not all of them did come back. So we have to be very safety aware. So we are a Category A sailing vessel in terms of the South African regulations, which means we also have certain things that have to be on board. We're not foolhardy, right? This is quite a considered endeavor as well, and it's also about how to consider your environment and how to engage with your environment in a way that actually isn't just a madness, right? So it's about skill and the application of skill, and it's also about, how people behave together on a boat, and how do you interact with each other when times get hard, and what are the, how do you engage? So in my case, I have a sort of a fundamental social contract with everyone that says, look, I will always assume good intent. Everybody gets to put one stripe on me for free, with no consequence. If I'm not saying some words like, I'm really pissed off with you, or you suck because, then I'm not pissed off. I'm probably just grumpy because the environment's difficult. And if I'm grumpy, you can just go, yo, grumpy bitch. And I'll go, ooh, look, yeah, and try to adjust my attitude. This also means that I won't be second guessing anyone else either. And if someone's being, I'm not going to go, oh, is he grumpy with me? Unless someone's saying to me, hey, I'm pissed off with you because, I'm going to assume they're not. And this sort of very straightforward working with each other is necessary. It's necessary for approaching these gnarly questions and these difficult situations. And so it is with our general world topics. We have to be straightforward with each other. We have to assume good intent, and there's so much confusion and so much twisted ways of being with each other that just can't work. They just aren't straightforward communication. So this is a big part of it, is just how am I in my interactions with other people. And we see this in bushcraft, we see it in mountaineering. Any kind of longer expeditions brings this to the fore. So it's also about that, in the size of the boat, in the size of the family, in the size of our work environment, in the size of our friends' environment, in our political environment, in our global environment, in how we react to each other. And it's also about what we'll tolerate and not tolerate. So also to have the social contract that says, hey, this thing that you're doing, it really pisses me off. And maybe that's my problem, but I'm at least going to tell you about it. Just no room for passive aggressiveness, no room for evasion. It must be direct engagement with the situation. So it's also about that. So how does the whole thing work? Well, we're building the boat at the moment in South Africa. In November, our great teachers, so Lars and Esben, will come down to help us trim the boat and teach the basics of the sailing, and then the crew will join in January for 3 or 4 weeks. It's 4 weeks actually. And again, this is about connecting, being able to do these things with everyday work. I'm just taking paid vacation from work, right? I'm a cubicle girl, just like many of you, but I also can do this. And there will be lots of opportunities for you to get involved in the boat. We're stopping lots of places. There's totally options to get on the boat, sailing, day sailing, maybe even for some of the legs. So we start with a leg in Africa, then that's 4 weeks, and then the boat will be transported up to Norway, sort of its spiritual home, where we will then meet with one of our sister ships, and we will sail out towards the Shetland Islands, so across the North Sea, go down the west coast of Europe, through the Mediterranean up to the Black Sea. The sister ship will sail down the river route, and we will meet up in the Black Sea eventually, because the thing is also about community. So along the way we'll be meeting lots of people and seeking out the folks that are really finding methods for helping with the problems that we have on the planet. Very practical things like reseeding mangrove trees, flying with helicopters over the coast and dropping 30,000 little mangrove bombs, right? A little mangrove seed with the supporting plants and some turf to regrow and regenerate. I mean, it's not enough to be thinking about sustainability. We have to think about regeneration of the planet. So dropping these things out of a helicopter to regenerate the mangrove forest along the coastline, which then helps prevent the erosion. We have some contacts that are doing desalination based on solar. I mean, there are lots and lots and lots of things to do, but we just don't know about them. And because we have this great media platform, we're a moving stage in that sense, and we'll have a documentary and all that kind of stuff, we need to showcase that there is method, there are measures you can take. And again, it's just like on the ocean, when you're in a big storm, you don't know the outcome. You don't know the outcome. There's no guarantee that you'll survive the storm, but you must take the best possible measures within the best of your capabilities to maximize the chances to survive. And this is our message as well, and this is what we're doing, is find out what these measures are and see what we can do to help spread those around and get those propagating. And hopefully we'll hear from all you guys who've got these ideas and these projects, and so we can come and visit and at the very least film and talk about what we're doing. So it starts in Africa, then we'll go to Norway, and we'll take this journey down to the Black Sea, but we're building multiple boats. I mean, this is just the beginning of this voyage, and we're just at the seed of it, and it's here. At this point, we're purely driven by determination, right? It's just the absolute unwillingness to give up. It's just forward motion. We call it, in Nimpa, we call it Gambate, but it's just about, in German, it's called Tatendrang. It's about the unswerving intent to do the deed, no matter what. And that's about daily discipline of training. That's about finding and making time in the busy schedule to do the procurement of the safety gear before November when the boat needs to get checked out. It's about just making something happen that wasn't there before, by force of will, by whatever means it requires. And so that's the beginning. This is just the start of things, and we need so much help. I'd love my Viking bushcraft friends to get in touch, and I'll reach out to you as well, because we'll be camping and we want to learn so much about the simple ways of doing things and what those Vikings were up to. And it's a community effort. It's not just about us that are on the boat, it's about everybody. It's about the boat builders, it's about the farmers, it's about the water makers, it's about the smiths, it's about people, skilled people doing each their part to make something really amazing happen. So how can you get involved in all this? Well, I'd love to get your questions first of all. Video yourself asking questions to me, and I will take video myself answering them, and I'll cut them together and we'll make a little to and fro like I did with Max. Thank you, buddy, for that idea, and answer your questions. And you'll see me training, and you'll see me sailing, and we'll obviously have lots of video on the boat, and we'll see, right? But ours is an expedition into awareness, into skills, into determination, into how to really bring to bear the will to survive, and the will to improve, and the will to create, and the will to have something beautiful happening in very, very turbulent environments. And that is what the Midgard Expedition is all about. So, stay tuned. There'll be lots more on this. I'm going to go and do a bit more vertical meters to get strong. And shout out to Tor and Sifi. Thank you eternally for getting me involved in this. Thank you, Björn, for setting this up, and thank you to all my crewmates, Erden and Jay and Kaz and Shannon, Nick, and to our skippers, Erden and Nick, and to everybody who's getting involved in this, and to Andre, the shipbuilder, and to Alison, who's our physiotherapist, and who is she's the most beast of all of our training partners. If you watch her kind of doing pull-ups and dips, you just want to cry, but at the same time you're inspired. So keep going, everybody. I'll do my very best to do my part, and we'll see how we all end up. So with that, I'll say, Viking Girl says, get on with it!